Well, tokenization is quickly becoming a core crypto story with real-world assets on-chain nearly tripling in a year. And as crypto looks ahead, structural change is accelerating even as macro risks do remain. Now, RWA tokenization has moved beyond theory into a real market, but the picture does remain split. And stablecoins have reached massive scale, while tokenized securities, commodities, and also infrastructure tokens remain concentrated and illiquid. Well, joining me here at the New York Stock Exchange today is Ahmed Zifzaf, head of crypto partnerships at Worldpay. Last week, PE firm GTCR completed the sale of Worldpay to Global Payments in a multi-billion-dollar deal. Well, great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited about it.
Well, as we look ahead to this year, we know that we're focusing on digital assets, but I think it's important to talk about how the global payments landscape is changing and the role of crypto. So what is your outlook?
Yeah, I would say the role of crypto is really creating a financialization of a lot of businesses around the world. Companies that normally wouldn't get access to things like the US dollar now can suddenly get access through stablecoins. You have companies who are looking to tokenize their own treasuries and unify their treasury in a way that you really couldn't do before the advent of a lot of these new crypto primitives and technologies.
Yeah, and we can't have a conversation without talking about the role of artificial intelligence. So tell us about how agentic AI will play a role.
Yeah, so when you think about blockchain, it's a database that's like a global ledger of a lot of transactions. When you think of an AI, agentic commerce sort of agent, what do they rely on is a lot of data. So we really view that blockchains can enable this sort of new boom of agentic commerce. That being said, there's a lot of things that we still need to figure out. How do you work with fraud? Is it more of a consumer or enterprise play? Personally, we believe that it's more of an enterprise play when it comes to like how you can use agentic payments to reconcile different transactions and the likes of a lot of the different types of reporting that's required on the enterprise level.
And I do want to ask you about stablecoins and also the role that stablecoins do play in driving digital payment adoption worldwide. So what is your outlook as we head into a new year?
I would say we have more and more companies of a real global scale who are interested in using stablecoins today as part of their payments process, whether that's accepting stablecoins as a method of payment, whether that's settling instead of receiving a fiat currency, receiving a stable currency, and whether you're doing payouts worldwide with fiat or you're doing it with stables. We really view it as a way where you should be able to use fiat and stables interchangeably, interoperably across geographies, across different asset classes. So we're really excited about what we're seeing as this demand for that growth and what this could mean for like technology as a whole as more companies adopt it.
Yeah, and speaking of adoption, I think institutional adoption has been one of the key themes that we're paying attention to as we head into this new year. But when it comes to financial transactions, what are you actually seeing on the ground, especially because you're in different markets?
Yeah, what we're seeing on the ground is that in a lot of emerging markets, you're already seeing this as like a common method of payment. So, consumers in a lot of emerging markets want to use crypto or stablecoins as a method of transaction. For businesses, we're seeing it a bit differently. It's more of a method of settlement. So you can get your funds quicker, can unify your treasury quicker, can you get access to yield quicker? And those things all so far seem to be true within the stable world.
Yeah, and you and I were here at the New York Stock Exchange in New York City, but when we look at regulatory developments around the world, things look different. And of course, here in the US, we're keeping an eye on the progress of regulatory changes in the nation's capital. So break down what we're seeing, not just here in the US, and how this affects payments.
Yeah, I would say payments as a whole within crypto and outside of crypto are being affected by lots of different regulatory changes. You have national sort of payment rails that are becoming quite popular in countries like India and Brazil, and that competes with things like stablecoins that are considered more of a global transaction layer or payment method. You have regulatory bodies like in Europe with MiCA, and then you have in the US with Clarity that kind of have different sort of regulations and how they want to treat different types of assets. And then you have what I would call like the more city-state governments like Singapore and Dubai that are, I would say, taking the most forward-looking outlook in terms of how they want to incorporate this type of technology in their core infrastructure. So it's quite fragmented. I think it'll be competitive, but I think that's great for businesses and consumers alike because it means we'll really bring the best technology forward.
And you have a unique perspective. You mentioned the word fragmented, and when we think about the United States, it is a big country. Not only do we have many states, but we also are talking about local as well as city, as you mentioned, for other nations across the world. So what do you think should be happening on the ground here?
I think on the ground here, I really enjoy seeing the sort of experimentation that you're seeing. You have states like North Dakota launching their own stablecoin and Wyoming also doing the same. At the same time, you have community banks, regional banks around the country who are using stablecoins as a way to attract low-cost deposits. You have large companies that are using it for cross-border payments to kind of lower their cost of payments. So what I think we're seeing right now is a lot of different use cases that are being experimented on and are seeing success, but I think it still remains to be seen. This is a new technology, new types of adoption. So I would say you have to be a little bit adaptable because we don't know exactly where this is going to end.
Yeah, and we have about 60 seconds here, and you mentioned innovation, but with innovation, especially with payments and financial services and tech, you need guardrails. So what guardrails are necessary?
I would say a lot of it has to do with, are these technologies battle tested? Even for a company like Worldpay, we view ourselves almost like we are the protection layer for our businesses that we represent around the world. So are these enterprise grade? Are these tested in a variety of different methods? Is there liquidity to make sure that, if everyone wants to pull out of an asset, that you can kind of meet that demand? So I would say a lot of it has to do with the testing, the scaling, and having a strategy that unifies the type of use case that you want to work on.
Well, Ahmed, great having you here. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for sharing all of your insights and your perspective.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.